were not working. They both, like, completely lagged out. The internet just was not allowing me to stream. So I decided that instead of doing a Bloodborne stream, we're gonna take a short break from that game and do a different game. Now, I cannot go from playing Bloodborne to playing Skyrim. I just can't. Skyrim's combat system is so painfully dull in comparison that I'm not going to be able to stream that game and have a good time. So instead of that, we're going to do a Minecraft stream, which is not something we've done in a while. And the point of this stream is going to be wholly dedicated to building a adventure map. If you were in my channel back in the day, and you know, you probably weren't, but assuming you were, a long time ago, I had a series, and that series was called Lazarus, and it was a post-apocalyptic sci-fi, basically adventure map. And you know, we made like, I don't know, like 10 videos on it. And I put in like a good, I don't know, 50 hours of building. But in the end, it never turned out to be all that good. And eventually I got bored of the project and ended up abandoning it. And this is going to be our essentially replacement from that, is Lyarum. Which is very much Bloodborne inspired. It is essentially going to be a Bloodborne Minecraft adventure map. In just about every sense of the way. So, yeah, that is going to be the current project that we're going to work on. How much of it I actually stream, as opposed to just doing in my free time, I don't really know. But, you know, we're just going to go ahead and get started. And, you know, here's the other thing about why I haven't really done any Bloodborne content. If you saw my last two videos on Bloodborne, you'll notice that both of them are less than 30 minutes long, and neither of them have any commentary. That is because, my PlayStation is not picking up mic commentary. For whatever reason, it it only picks up my mic whenever I'm streaming, not when I'm making videos. So in both of those videos, the entire time that I was commenting on what was happening, and, you know, feeling pretty good about how my commentary was going, feeling like it was a lot smoother than usual, it turned out that it was not recording any of it. So, yeah, making videos on Bloodborne is just not really viable. And, as it stands, doing streams, let's see, this is 2? Yeah, doing streams on it was not working, because, like I said, my internet was taking a massive shit. And, we're gonna take a break from that game, basically. And that's what this stream is. It's our little break from the game. It is not a permanent break, though. We are definitely going to go back to it, because that game is fun as hell. It's not even due to burnout, either. I could play that game for 200 hours straight and not get bored. It's wholeheartedly just due to the fact that, it just wasn't working. And so I wanted to, take a break and stream a game where it doesn't matter if it cuts out. And I think Minecraft is a game where it doesn't really matter if the stream cuts out, because at that point, oh well, it's just Minecraft, you know. Whereas if the screen cuts out in the middle of Bloodborne, you're missing out on, like, major boss content. So it's slightly more important to maintain the visuals. Alright. Okay, that worked a little bit perfectly. Now that'll link up to the main gate. How do I want to do the curve on this? And also, I think I want to extend this forward again. I'm not sure. But I think if I extend it forward, then I can actually have more detail in there. Starting at the bottom and working our way up. And I want to detail this, fuck. I want to detail this wall as much as possible. We're also going to mix in andesite to give it more texture. and, there you are. I'm not sure, like, how much I really want to mix in. We're going to mix in a little bit. And we're also going to start mixing in some crackstone brick to give it even more texture. There. Now, there's not really a lot to comment on when you're doing building, so it's not like there's going to be anywhere near as much commentary as there would usually be. So, you know, if you prefer my commentary, then these streams are probably not for you. But I honestly cannot imagine why anyone would prefer my commentary. I would say that, generally speaking, my commentary is a little bit shit. Alright. And now we need to build the actual main gate part, which is probably going to be out of dark oak. Ooh. I probably should have, okay, before I do, like, the layer that actually matters, let's do this part, because this is going to get covered up later. And then that'll let me see it and decide what texturing needs done here. Okay, so I actually do like it being offset, or not offset, further back. Let's grab stone slabs. Oh. Wait, what? There we go. Okay, let's grab 2 different kinds of buttons. One to look a bit more, oh, actually, you know what? There we go. Going to line the gate with those, and then line the gate with another one. Probably stone buttons, because I don't want them to be too dark that they're not very visible. Bruh. Okay, you know what? Let's cut this in half. So that the gate isn't like connected. Let's use spruce log to cut it in half. Since that's like the darkest log color. What else can I do here? I'm thinking instead of having them completely line the thing, we should only have a few. You see, it's very hard to gauge a build objectively. Fucking, you know what? Hold on, let me pull up Nations of the World real quick and fucking test my ability to goddamn speak. No, I don't like listening to my own voice. You ever listen to Nations of the World from fucking Animaniacs? Alright. Alright. Because I'm not able to fucking talk at the moment for some reason. United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, too. Fucking go faster. I'm gonna fucking speed it up. We're gonna put this bitch on 2 times speed, make it even fucking harder. United States, Canada, fuck! United States, Canada, Mexico, fuck! Mexico! I will get this goddamn right, and then I'll go back to streaming. United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, 2, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, Ecuador, Chile, Brazil. Okay, now I can fucking talk properly. There we go. Okay, so, it's very hard to judge builds fucking goddamn it. What is the word I'm looking for? Objectively? With objectivity. It is very hard to judge builds with a level of objectivity when you're the one building it, because you have a confirmation bias towards it, either a positive one or a negative one. That is what I was trying to goddamn say. I'm going to blow my brains out. Also, this is going to be a problem, because you can see outside the map. And, the point of this map is that you're not supposed to be able to see outside of it. Like, nowhere else in the map can you see any other builds that I've made, with the exception of up here. But I have a solution to this. This area isn't finished. Oh, you know what? While I'm at it, I haven't actually showed off this project yet. So, this is the first street that I worked on. You can see all the buildings are very cramped up next to each other, and have a very, like, just very cramped shape. It looks like they were all built on top of each other, and some of them actually are. Like, this room right here connects into this house, not that one. But the point is that is like the main street that you would enter the city through, and then back here you have a secondary street. Okay, you know what? Let's start from the beginning here, right? So you would wake up inside this building here. From this building, you would go outside of the clinic, and then you have the main street with the gate that leads you into the city. And this entire street on this side too is going to be crammed with buildings. Your only choice from there is to either go this direction or go down this alleyway over here. And if you go down this alleyway, there's 2 more buildings, and then there's a small church over here with the street blocked off, forcing you to go around. And the point of that is to get you to learn the layout of the city a bit more, rather than just, like, stumbling through it. And there's no actual way to get inside of the main church that's over here. And you can see there's already coffins lining the streets and pikes covered in heads. And just, like, the entire town is already going to shit, and this is still just the beginning area. And then up here, there's going to be taller buildings. And basically, what's going to happen is, whenever you're standing here, the buildings on this side are going to be so tall that you can't see outside of the map. Although this area over here is, again, going to be a problem. What I'm thinking is that there's going to have to be a build right here, outside of the city, to cover up all of that. Like a very large building. Because mostly that lighthouse is the problem. That pink building is also seeable, but that lighthouse is the main problem. Although... oh yeah, no, see, the light still works. I was like, why does the light appear to be permanently on? No, it's just because I haven't loaded in the area, so it's not synchronized yet. But, yeah, there's gonna have to be a building here that prevents the player from seeing any of that. And you can see it's very compact. Like, this is the only chunk that's been built yet, and it's very rectangular. But, I'm not sure what to build right there to stop people from seeing outside the map. What I'm thinking is to, have either the sewers or the catacombs lead over here, and to build a very tall building over it that you can, like, see from inside the city, but that doesn't have any windows that lead outside. That way it obscures the sightline in the horizon of all the other buildings, while still fitting into the theme. It goes against my initial guideline, which was to have every build in the project make sense logically within the world, meaning that if I were actually on this street and I wanted to access any other part of the map, I could physically walk to it. And so by putting a building out here that you can't access, it creates a sort of issue where all of the space around that building is non-canonical. It doesn't make sense. But I think that's just gonna have to be, like, a trade-off in order to make this work. Because I didn't build, like, something tall enough in this area to block off the sightline. And, like, I really would have to, I'd have to build something to about this level in height to block off the pink building. And then I'd have to build something even taller to block off that one. And that's also, like I said, a problem right here, is that from here, you can already see it. So, like I said, we're going to have to do a little bit of alterations in order to prevent that. I don't really see an alternative that would work, besides, like, building a fucking mountain around the place. And, I'm not sure if I want to build a mountain around the entire city. Well, or not even around the entire city, I'm just not sure I want to build a mountain, period. But we'll find a solution to that later. I mean, alternatively, I could build one more house right here, and that would fix the problem in this spot, but it wouldn't fix the problem in this spot. The reason I originally built... And, you know, this wouldn't... Alright, whatever. Like I said, it's a problem that we're going to fix later. Let's get back to working on this gate. We're going to copy this design onto the other side, because I do think this is the design we're going for. I think this is the most satisfactory design. Admittedly, it's the second design I tried, but still. 2, then 3. So 2, then 3. 2, then 3. Although this stream has gone remarkably well in terms of not receiving any error messages or Wi-Fi problems. So if this stream remains up to quality, then whenever it's finished, I'm gonna go stream Bloodborne again. And by the way, I have a bit of a plan for Bloodborne. So I am not going to beat that game without killing every boss in that game. Right now, there are like 4 different bosses that I can go fight. I can go fight Ludwig the Accursed, who is hard as hell. I can go fight Abretus, Daughter of the Cosmos, who is hard as hell. I can fight Martyr Ligarius, who is hard as hell. I could fight the Tumerian Elder, who is less hard but also still pretty difficult. Or I could fight Rom the Vacuous Spider, version 2, from the Chalice Dungeon, which looks to be a bit harder. Or I could fight the One Reborn and advance the main quest line. However, I don't want to do that because in terms of main bosses in Bloodborne, after the One Reborn, all that's left is Mikolash, Host of the Nightmare, and Murgo's Wet Nurse. And then that's it. At that point, you've returned to the Hunter's Dream, and you either let Gurman kill you, you kill him, or you kill him and then kill the Moon Presence. And I'm going to kill him and then kill the Moon Presence. But the point I'm getting at is that there are only 4 bosses left, and then the game is just over. And if you beat the game, it does not let you keep playing. It forces you out and into a New Game Plus cycle. Which means I have to beat all the Chalice dungeons first, and beat all the old Hunters DLC bosses. So we have to defeat Ludwig the Accursed, as well as Maria, the Living Failures, Orphan of Cause, and I think that's it, right? Living Failures, Maria, Ludwig the Accursed, and then Orphan Cause. That's only 4. There's 5 bosses in that DLC. Who am I missing? Ludwig the Accursed, Maria, Ludwig the Accursed, Living Failures, Maria. Those are the first 3 bosses in order. And then Orphan of Cause ends the DLC. I'm missing a boss. Who am I forgetting? Lawrence, the first vicar. That's who I'm forgetting. Yeah, so there are 5 bosses in that DLC, all of which are pretty difficult. Well, except Living Failures, that we have to take out. So, like I said, we can't really keep advancing the main story in that game, or we're going to accidentally beat the game. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the actual building portion of this stream. Because, you know, that is the intention, is to actually get stuff done. Alright, let's build a marker. Marker. There we go. So, the first building we're gonna have to be right here. Alright. And then let me see what the centrance on this is. Okay, so it has a 1-block center. So we're gonna have the roof face this way. Let's build the second building. You know what, actually? You can't see anything from here, right? It's not until you're right here that you can start seeing stuff. So if I build this next building and I pull it outwards to right... Ooh. Yeah, all the way to here. If I pull it all the way to here, that will completely cut off your ability to see the lighthouse in this location. Alright, so this would be the most ideal thing, to pull the frame back a bit. It's a really long house. Maybe what I'll do is I'll cut the inside in half. So, like, find just about the midway point, which is right here. That is not at all the midway point. One of these sides is significantly larger, but you get the point. Alright. Smaller building. Really, this is just the initial frameworking before we get into the actual main building portion, which is pretty important to do. Yeah, now there's no way to see the lighthouse. Well, son of a bitch. As soon as you jump, you can see it. What about if we're a little bit closer? Okay, so let's bring this up one more block. And in practice, what this is going to look like is this is going to be the framework right here, and this is going to be the framework right here. Well, actually, if we do this, we can have it be a shared frame. No, I don't really like that idea. Alright. You can still just barely see it, but not enough to where it should be super immersion breaking. Because that really is the thing, is that I want to have the map at least somewhat immersive. I don't want the player to constantly be seeing outside of it and ruining the feeling like they're inside this crowded city. And I want the city to be extremely crowded. Like, of the areas that I have planned, this is the central district, the gate district, actually. This is where you enter the city. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, there's about 12 other areas to explore within the city, or within the world, because some of them aren't within the city. So there's going to be a lot of content. This project is going to be even bigger than Lazarus was. And it's also going to just be a lot more detailed than Lazarus as well. So it's going to be all around just a significant increase, both in terms of production time, because it is going to take a lot longer to make, but also just in terms of, you know, amount of stuff that needs done. But, you know, I'm prepared for that. I would say that this style right here is a lot more entertaining to build in than that modern city style. And it's also a lot harder to get stuck and to run out of ideas with this style, because you're not like with the skyscrapers, right? That was like the biggest thing about Lazarus, was that these skyscrapers were very repetitive, but they were also very hard to do because of their size. You couldn't really do the interior, so you were just building this outer shell. So it was a lot of just scrolling up and down, up and down, up and down. You really weren't doing anything. And so it got repetitive extremely fast, which is not so much a problem, or it won't really be as much of a problem this time. It's not going to be as repetitive. Because, yeah, we're building, like, this same style of house over and over again. But you can see none of these houses are the same. And they have very, like, distinct roof shapes. You can see this one sort of has a, it starts out triangular, but then it sort of pikes off. This one right here merges with the other roof, but is a simple A-frame. This one is just a, and then these two are these, like, matching pillars that connect together. This one is pretty much a flat roof. This one is like a basic A-frame. This is like an A-frame, but with a, like, spike on the top. And then this is also a basic A-frame. You can see here on the backs as well, different roof shapes. It makes it feel more distinct than building skyscrapers, even though it's similar. And because I'm also doing a lot of internal detailing to the buildings, it also cuts up some of the sameness of the project goes away. And the other thing is that different sections of the city are going to be built differently. So this is just the gate district, so it's like, you know, very narrow streets, but it's just sort of like the base framework for how you'd build the city. Whereas the lower district is going to be even more cramped than this. You can see that right here, these are still pretty wide streets. When we get into the ghettos, they are not even going to be that wide. Pretty much every building is going to be, like, apartment-style buildings built on top of each other with 3-4 block streets that are cramped and full of, carts and trash and stuff like that. It is going to look like the ghettos of London, basically. It's going to look extremely cramped. Like an alleyway where Jack the Ripper would fucking mutilate a body. And see, we got our first internet connection. Quality is not sufficient to broadcast gameplay message, which is the exact type of message I was talking about that makes me not want to stream Bloodborne. Because a Bloodborne stream getting ruined midway through is extremely problematic and very annoying, as was seen when I tried to tackle Upper Cathedral Ward and just couldn't, because it just cut out like 5 times. So this was also a pretty good test of, are we still going to be able to stream until I get an Ethernet cable? Which might very well be no. But, and then things like the cleric's hold is going to be a lot more open. There's going to be a lot more cathedrals, church buildings, and other things for the clergy to work with. There's going to be, you know, schools. So, there's going to be some variety once you really get into it. This is just sort of that starting point that we need to get done in order to advance the project. Let's pull this back real quick. Alright. And this should give us, let me calculate this as well. Okay, so it has a 2-block center. Of, all the buildings that we're gonna do. This is definitely a 1-block center, yeah. And then this one's a 1-block center. I do realize that all of these roofs have, like, they may look at first like they're just going to be A-frames, but hopefully that won't end up being the case, and I'll end up coming up with some diversity. What I'm thinking about doing is stacking buildings on top of these ones to prevent there from being A-frames, which will definitely change the shapes of the roof a lot. Like, right here, this is my favorite part of the build so far. It's the way that this... And there actually is a way to get in there, but it's convoluted. In order to get into that section up there, and take this ladder, you can get up here. This is that first window. But you can see there's nowhere else to go from here. Even though that those all seem to be part of this building, only that library is actually accessible by this. That window up there, to access that, you have to go into this house. I think it's this house. Is it not this house? It is apparently not this house. How do you get in there? Okay, first of all, I'm gonna have to break through the walls real quick. Point is, you get in here through this ladder, which is in this house. Alright, yeah. So you go into this house, right? And then you go through a hole in the wall, which you climb up into a duct, which you can climb up again onto the roof of the building, and then enter the clock tower through a door, and then it leads you into this room. Which is very much illogical. But it's actually purposely logical. You can see this room is littered with the exact same painting repeated and just covered in flower pots and candles. And then downstairs, there's just a ton more flower pots all filled with wither roses. And there's just some bars in the back, which I actually realize now that you can see outside of the build through these bars, because you can jump up. So that's a bit of a mistake on my part. But I do like having those bars there. I wonder what the best way to rectify this would be. Like, if I put that on the outside, maybe? But you can still kind of see through it. Yeah, that's another thing that I'll have to question and think about. But yeah, this entire area here is meant to feel intentionally insane and just completely unrealistic. And the way you enter through the painting, which, you know, in real life, you can't walk through paintings without destroying them. But, like, the canon explanation is that you are actually emerging from this painting in this room. So you're walking through a solid object because, again, it is completely illogical. Like I said, I was very much inspired by, you know, Bloodborne, H.P. Lovecraft, you know, cosmic horror kind of things. So I wanted to make this world feel really dark, really cramped, but also filled with things that don't make sense in a way that you can only justify through actual insanity. And what I'm going to do is later on in the like build, like deeper into the city, probably in the cleric's hold, there's going to be a part where you can finally leave this dimension and enter a chunk of the city which is completely lost in the ether. Or in the aether, as it were. Which means you're going to, like, walk through another portal and come out in a section of the city that's going to look completely distorted. And I think the way I'll start it off is, like, it'll actually copy the layout of the overworld city, but with, like, heavy distortion. Or I might just build, like, a chunk of city and just have that be corrupted. But I'm thinking of, like, smashing together parts of the overworld city. So, like, for instance, whenever you emerge from the portal, you're gonna reappear in the gate district, and it's going to be this, like, street right here. But then, instead of coming back here and continuing the gate district, it's going to have, like, an entire separate part of the city that's collapsed onto it. And so you're going to essentially be walking from the gate district directly into places like the cleric hold in an instant. Because reality is completely warped within the ether. And everything is just broken and collided with itself. Like, I really am going for a cosmic horror vibe with this project. The entire point behind Lazarus was that it was a normal city at one point with some unnatural elements within it that had been secured and were under the containment of, you know, a shadowy government organization that had a facility there disguised to look like a normal, like, government building, but that was actually this experimental laboratory. But, you know, you have this city that was just this normal city, and it's just completely been destroyed now by some cataclysmic event. And there was a bit of an cosmic horror vibe to Lazarus as well, in terms of, like, what caused that cataclysm. if you went back into the laboratory, I think it was called, and went deep into it, there was a biohazard area where you could see a rift into another dimension, as well as like a mural containing just like a bunch of colors. And the point of that was that it was supposed to demonstrate that something caused the cataclysm, and this organization knew about it but could not stop it because it was a cosmologically strong force. It was essentially a force of nature in physical form. So, you know, there is a bit of a similarity in that way between this and the Lazarus Cities project, but this is going to lean into that element a lot more. It's like the city looks pretty normal in this part, but as you get deeper into the city, it is going to be completely a fucking nightmare. It is just going to be hell on earth. You can start to see that over here, where I've sort of already started setting up, like, pyres and shit, where they're burning bodies, and graves lining the street, bloodstains in the corner where they've begun piling the bodies before they char them on the fire to make sure they don't come back, because this city does not trust the dead to stay dead. But as we go deeper into the city, it's going to get significantly worse than that. And once we get into the ether, it is just going to be complete fucking chaos. It is going to be as if the city has been torn asunder. So this is going to be a really fun project, I think, once we actually start getting into the more complicated stuff. But right now, all we really have to do is, like, start building the frameworks and start building the streets. But instead of just talking while doing nothing, I'm going to talk while actually building now. Be a little bit more productive than our current state. Because we've just kind of been talking and walking around so far, which tends to be a thing that happens in a lot of my creative streams. I think it's something about being on camera that makes my creativity dwindle a little bit, because I don't have as much freedom of mistakes. I have to be a bit more focused and a bit more centered. I can't experiment as much without wasting people's time. Although that ironically leads to me wasting people's time by not doing anything. So, you know, bit of a problem there, but fortunately we do have an objective to do at the moment. So we can just start filling out this street right here to start us off. Another thing that I need to do is I need to practice building carriages. I've, like, never done carriages, and I've only done a few cart designs before. And so building some that are going to look nice in the street is going to be an extremely important thing to do, because I can't have the streets be empty. They do have to have content in them. And, like, you know, obviously I'm not going to be able to, like, fully build this city in a way that's realistic to what a, you know, a 1700s, 1800s city would look like. But in terms of appearance, it's going to be as close looking as possible. And I'm going to try and make it at least mostly make sense. In terms of whenever it's meant to make sense. Like, one of the key things about world building in fantasy settings, and a lot of people, they miss this, mostly people who just don't spend enough time, like, exploring the genre, it's people who say, what does it matter if there's realism? It's fantasy. Why are you looking at the realistic elements of something with dragons? And what they're not realizing is that the more realistic your setting is initially, the more likely people are to believe the unrealistic elements of your setting. You know, the reason shows like Game of Thrones work is because, yeah, there's magic, but Westeros feels real. Whenever you're looking at those towns and shit, that feels like an actual town, and not just a fucking, not just a crowded area full of NPCs. Or full of actors, as it were. And it's the same thing with books, right? If you have characters that are defying the laws of physics, despite the fact that the story is supposed to be at least somewhat believable, unless you give an explanation for how they're just defying physics, no one's gonna buy into your world as real. You know, like, if all of a sudden your character jumps 40 feet in the air, and there's just no explanation for it, he can just do that, despite the fact that the setting is supposed to be at least semi-realistic, your audience is going to completely just lose the ability to suspend their disbelief long enough to actually view your world as anything other than, you know, an interesting story. But they're not really going to be able to buy into it. And we want this city to pull people in. We want people to buy into this city. So, like, in here, we have the first building, which is just absolutely full of, let me pop a night vision potion. Which is just absolutely full of, like, chests, barrels, things hanging from the ceiling. It's very compact. And then the secret right here does exist, right? And actually, now that I think about it, I should probably put that there so that it looks like a full barrel. But then you can see there's just a broken hole in the wall leading to this room back here. And initially, there isn't really a logical explanation for why there's this large compartment in the wall that they've just hollowed out. But it's one of those things that isn't inherently unrealistic to the point of being unbelievable. You could believe that the person who owns this mercantile shop decided to hide something behind just like a barrel, and that leads into a hole in the wall into this compartment where they're storing stuff. For whatever reason they feel the need to store stuff. But you can see there's a cosmic fragment in here. So you could also argue that this room right here, and this hole in the wall, does not exist because someone built it. It exists because it exists. And there is no logical explanation to it. It's an anomaly. It's chaos in physical form. But like the rest of the build, you know, it feels like an actual warehouse. And if we go up the stairs, right, you can see that none of these chests are floating. Like if we stack two chests on top of each other, you can see it just floats there. Every bit of storage is specifically made sure to be held up by something. There is no just floating content. It's just a ton of shelves and stuff. The beds are supported by frames. So you can see that is it realistic that there's this, like, you know, warehouse where they have their employees sleeping and it's directly at the entrance to the city? Potentially. It's not inherently unbelievable that you know, this society doesn't really care about, you know, things like labor unions or anything like that, because, you know, it's like the 1700s. They can get away with basically anything. Would house their employees within their warehouse. And it's not unbelievable that there would be a warehouse right here at the entrance to the city. This next building is a little bit more unbelievable. You can see all they have in here is like a drawer and a chest hanging up on a shelf, and then a single table and then a bed. This is not a livable house, and you would never see someone in a house like this in real life, but this is kind of all you can fit in here. So you sort of have to suspend your disbelief for that building. Whereas we come in here and you can see that, where's the smoker? Yeah, that's not supposed to be like that. Whereas, in here you can see that their furnace is linked up to an actual chimney. It doesn't just bellow smoke out into their house. You see they have a bed, they have a cutting board, they have some bins for storage. We're gonna grab grab another thing. And then upstairs they have a little bit of a library where they keep some of the books that they like. Is that inherently believable? Not necessarily, but it at least feels probable, or, you know, it feels like it could be real. If someone was really just, like, invested in books, you know, maybe they want to own a lot of books. Like, it's not realistic when you really put it under scrutiny, right? But no Minecraft build really is. It's just meant to feel realistic enough to where when you're exploring the map, you do feel like you're exploring a map. Or you do feel like you're exploring a city, and not just walking around a build meant to mimic a city. And there is going to be lore behind this. Like I said, it's very Bloodborne inspired. The pestilence runs rampant, vile fiends roam the streets, cleanse the disease, evolve, the night soon falls. But, unlike Bloodborne, which, you know, has two main themes, which is blood and insight, the main, like, themes in this city, which is, what was it, Lyarum? Yeah, I think it's Lyarum. The main themes of Lyarum are not blood, but disease. disease and chaos. There's gonna be a lot more mysticism than Bloodborne has. Bloodborne has a lot of, like, cosmic horror elements, and a lot of magic linked to the blood and linked to insight, but there's not a lot of magic in the way that you would, like, there's not a lot of, I guess, general fantasy magic, where it's this, really usable thing, or where it's this, like, even Dark Souls has, like, spells and enchantments and stuff like that. There's not as much of that in Bloodborne. There's still some of it. Well, there's still quite a lot of it, but most of it is a bit more timid. Not timid. It's kept a bit more grounded in cosmic horror, rather than as open as most fantasy is with magic, and so it's not really as accessible or as prevalent in usable forms. But anyway, it's hard to demonstrate the intentions that I have in this area because I can only really do the first layer. When I built these, I built like an actual full framework for them. And it's possible that I should do that again instead of taking the sort of risk that I currently am. And, you know, that, yeah, that risk has to do with the fact that, sorry, I'm a little bit scatterbrained at the moment. That risk has to do with the fact that because I'm only doing it like this, it leaves the potential of me just accidentally building a ton of A-frames, which is not what I want to do. So we're going to have to be mindful of that and make sure that we don't. But hopefully that won't become a problem. And we'll start stacking these up. Because like I said, this is my favorite part of the project so far, is the way this area right here connects together in this very chaotic and cramped way. And like, this street is pretty open, but I think once we get carts on it, it won't be as open. Although, that actually reminds me that I do want to test out building carts again. Real quick. I know it's a bit of a divergence from what we were working on. But I want to test out some of the cart designs, so that whenever we get into this project later on, we have some stuff to put in the streets. Where am I going to do this at? I want to find an area where I can do a lot of experimenting and testing without it bothering me. I feel like over here would probably be a good area. Because you can see we have, like, the wall testing that we did. And we did that little car as well. It's, like, right outside where I plan to build, like, a bit of a headquarters. But, you know what? That's okay. So, first of all, let's get all the blocks that I want to use in this palette down. So that I can just get rid of all of them. Alright. And then we're going to grab planks as well. And we're going to need one more thing, if I remember correctly. Which is this. Alright. Let's change that to these since they have a bit more of a rounded texture. There's something I'm missing here. This area right here doesn't look good. I'm missing some part of it. I'm sure of it. It might be that, but I'm really not sure. Maybe it's like it's supposed to go out one more. Damn, I don't even remember the most, like, simplistic designed cart in detail enough to build it properly. It was something like this, though. And then, like, you can build variants of it. And a chest. And I guess if I put these on the front, it could look sort of like a pulley that you would attach a rope to. So that isn't a terrible design. And then if we build it out of spruce, it would actually fit the the darkness, the city a lot more. So use the same wheel design though. So like this was like the most basic cart design. And I actually don't think that's, you know, too bad. Like I think a few of those throughout the city wouldn't look bad. I'm not really sure if they're not very realistic though. They very much look fictional. Like they're very small and a little bit I don't know, cartoonish, if that makes sense. Which isn't necessarily what we want. Alright. Do this and then put a line of planks like this. See, the way that touches the ground, though, really stands out to me. Like, that might be a little bit better. We need to experiment with this design. Because, like, once we start experimenting with those, right? Well, not once we... Hold on, let me clear my inventory. I'm gonna need these blocks in order to demonstrate my point. Once we get in to the city... and we get to the part where we actually have to start building things, we want to put these throughout the streets, right? But if they're not good looking, it's going to take away from the rest of the buildings, and it's going to actually downgrade the project and make it look worse. So, like, we'll build one here just to sort of demonstrate the point, right? Not on this side, hold on. Or theme. Because we do need it to, like, blend in, you know? We don't want it to stand out to the point where it completely breaks the immersion of the place. And that is my biggest concern, is that if this cart design is not good enough, it's going to break the immersion. Just like how cars often break the immersion when they're done poorly in modern city builds. Black screened. Which is where the screen goes black and it pops up a little white globe with a triangular... like, error message. Basically what that means is the PlayStation is not receiving enough internet to actually stream the gameplay, or it has encountered an error and can no longer stream the gameplay and is only now streaming my audio. That is one of the things that I have been concerned about throughout the past few days, and one of the reasons I plan on getting a wired connection, and it's also why I did a Minecraft stream instead of a Bloodborne stream today. Because I wanted to test whether that's going to happen again. Because 3 streams now have been completely inoperable due to internet. So I am 100% not going to stream Bloodborne again until I get an Ethernet cable. Which means my next few Bloodborne videos are going to be, first of all the previous boss fights that I've done, I'm going to keep editing them down and publishing them so that people who don't want to sit through, you know, fucking hours of stream can see at least the important fights. And secondly, they're going to be videos of gameplay and not live streams, which means there's going to be no commentary, because for some reason it doesn't pick up my commentary when I do videos, only when I do streaming, for reasons I cannot explain. And, yeah, that's gonna have to be what it is. They're also gonna be a lot shorter, obviously, so... You know, you can watch them in smaller doses, but, again, without commentary, I doubt people are going to watch them. Because who wants to watch a video that's in, 720p of Bloodborne with no commentary when they could watch a 1080p video of the same game? Or even a 4K video, I'm sure, at this point, of the exact same game with or without commentary. So, yeah, those videos are probably going to get no views, but that's what I'm going to have to do. As for whether I'm going to continue this stream, considering that no one is able to see anything, possibly, even though it's really just going to be a podcast at this point. It's just going to be me talking while I build and you can't see anything. So, if you're only really listening and you're not actually paying attention to the gameplay, you're going to be getting just about the exact same experience as before. But, if you actually cared about watching what was happening, you're a bit shit out of luck. But, anyway, what I realized earlier, and I actually, came to this realization in class, I was thinking about the city street, and I realized that, as I was making, a blueprint for a possible layout for the city, I realized I was only looking at it from a 2D perspective. And, the thing that really makes a city feel alive is the differences in elevation, especially when it comes to, a Victorian city or a medieval city, is the distance in elevation. You've got staircases, you've got hills and shit like that, you've got rivers, and so what I've done over here is at the end of this street next to the clinic, we have a section where it raises up, and this is going to be a very large section. All the buildings at the back wall are going to be, extremely tall in order to block off any view of the outside world, and then the buildings that are closer to the inner part of the city are going to be smaller. So, at the back, you're going to have buildings that are, 3, 4, maybe even 5 stories tall on top of these foundations, whereas, over here, you're going to have some more 2, 1-story, and 3-story buildings. And, yeah, this area is still going to be pretty crowded. I'm honestly not sure how big I'm going to make each of the districts. However, there needs to be enough buildings in the city to where it feels like a city. I was looking at it earlier, just the progress that I had done, right? And I was like, alright, I would say that is probably about 5% of the total size of the gate district, in terms of how big I want it to be, and less than 1% of how big the entire project is going to be. It is going to be very expansive, and it is going to spread out. And it's going to keep spreading out away from spawn, in that direction. You can't really see it, but the reason I built the gate where I did is because I have that line that goes straight across where I have each of the major updates that comes to the game, and so the city can't cut through that, which means it has to, follow that deadline. And so it's going to expand in the opposite direction of spawn, and it's going to start expanding into wider and wider areas. But, it's not really going to be very, Yeah, hold on a second, if this is inside map 11, or whether this is, completely outside of it. Yeah, no, it is completely outside of it, meaning it is going to get, its own map. Whenever I, open a map up here. So let's do that real quick. Where are maps at? I think they're pretty far down. But, yeah, I'd say we're less than 5% or around 5% of the way through the gate district. And we're 100% less than 1% of the way through this project. It is going to be massive. It is going to be the biggest thing that I've done in Minecraft so far. Where the fuck are maps at? I swear to God I'm blind. I've seen them before, too. It's just that I just can't learn the creative menu, no matter how hard I try. Oh, that actually worked just about perfectly. Not quite as perfectly as I would have liked it to, but just about perfectly. Which direction is this expanding in? There we go. Alright, so we can actually open up a second map, too, if I walk over here. Yeah, so I think if I'm standing right here, it'll actually create a new one as well. The best part about this is that you can't see what the fuck I'm talking about. It's just fucking complete jitterish. But, you know, it totally makes sense from my perspective. But yeah, we definitely can't do any Bloodborne streams for a while, because I'm gonna have to buy an Ethernet cable and funnel it up to my room in order to have enough Wi-Fi to be able to stream properly. Because that is why this happened, is shit Wi-Fi. I checked it the other day, and it's like, its download speed was like 15 kilobytes per second. And kilobytes, if you don't know, are the lowest fucking, like, possible metric when it comes to, it is the lowest fucking possible metric when it comes to, like, digital storage, or digital information. It goes, like, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, so on and forth, I think. But, yeah. But anyway, we've been streaming for an hour and 1 minute. But, like, all we're streaming now is a black screen set to me talking. So it honestly might be better off to just end the stream at this point. It is very unfortunate that this happened, however. I had a decent hope when we were, like, you know, getting, like, 50 minutes into the stream without it black screening or cutting out or doing anything weird, that, my internet was going to start cooperating, and I could go back to streaming Bloodborne. But, that does not seem to be the case. But, I am clipping, like, every boss fight. So, anytime I beat a boss off camera, I am still getting it clipped in the Chalice Dungeon. And I'm not doing any main story progression, I'm only doing Chalice Dungeons. And I'm not even doing any DLC progression or optional bosses either, without doing them on camera. And, like, the Celestial Emissary fight I actually did in an episode. That was in, part 7, I think? Well, yeah, what was part 7? Bloodborne part 7, Upper Cathedral Ward. Yeah, so we fought, Celestial Emissary in that episode. And then in Canehurst Castle, we lost our first attempt against Martyr Lugarius. But, like, for one thing, I'm not going to go back, and I'm not going to fight Ludwig the Accursed, or Martyr Lugarius, or the One Reborn, or any of those, like, in-game, non-Chalice Dungeon bosses, until I'm recording, like, a full episode, or doing a live stream. But, Chalice Dungeons, I think, are fair game. Like, if it's a new Chalice Dungeon, like, if I'm doing, healing, what is it? It's like, healing, okay, hold on. There's the Tumaru Chalice, and then there's, like, Healing Lyarum, and then there's something Ains dungeon or something like that. Like, if it's a new dungeon that I've never checked before, right, then I'll probably record it and make it into a video. But if it's just, like, a Chalice dungeon that I've already done before, but it's a new boss that I haven't seen in the Chalice dungeon, I'm just gonna record the boss, not the whole dungeon. And in any case, I'm gonna upload all the boss fights anyway. So, you know, it's not unbearable, and it's not the worst thing ever, but it is inconvenient. Although, I will be honest, I was like, everyone hypes up the Soulsborne franchise as this just fucking rage-inducing nightmare. I was expecting to play the game for, like, 3 hours and then fucking never touch it again. Like, I was expecting to hate the game with a passion. That has not at all been the case. It's actually one of the fucking most fun games I've ever played in my entire life. And it honestly just hasn't made me very mad either. I have gotten madder playing Minecraft by a significant margin than I have playing Bloodborne. And Bloodborne has inspired me to go back and eventually play all of the Souls games. Maybe not Demon Souls, because I don't even know if I can get it for the PS4. But definitely Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I don't think they're going to be as fun as Bloodborne, though, honestly. Those games are a lot slower than Bloodborne, but, like, the very violent and fast-paced in Bloodborne is extremely entertaining. Like, the first level is Central Yharnam, right? And they instantly put you up against a very high bar. The entire city is filled with patrols of mad townsmen that can gang up on you, and when you're a low-level player and when you're not used to the game, they can kill you pretty easily, and it's very easy to get overpowered, especially with, like, the dogs and the gunners, where the dogs are very fast, frantic, and, you know, spasmy, a bit hard to hit, and those gunners are going to peck you off from a distance, and at a low level, they're going to pack a punch, too. So, whenever you're going through Central Yharnam, at first, it's like this high wall that you have to climb up, right? You have to slowly work your way through it and get better and better at the game until where in your first go through, you get completely fucking murked. Within a few runs of that loop, you're able to kill every enemy in Central Yharnam and make your way to the boss fight. But then again, it throws you up against another challenge, because now it throws 2 werewolves at you, and they're, like, stronger than the normal werewolf enemy in the game. They're black versions that are there specifically to fuck you up. And there's 2 of them, so it's 2 against 1, and they do a lot of damage and have a lot of health. And it, again, bashes you into the wall and says, get better. And either you cheese them, you sneak past them, or you get good enough to kill them, and then it throws you up against another challenge. Now, there's an ogre standing right between you and the boss room. So now you have to take that out, and you have to get used to these slower, brooding enemies, but that do a lot of damage. And that can be surprisingly quick whenever they catch you off guard. But assuming you get through all that, you make it to the bridge, right? And a lot of players might not even be expecting a boss fight. A lot of players might. Then all of a sudden, this giant beast jumps into the arena, and already you're up against something 50 times your size that's extremely fast, extremely aggressive, and that you have to learn to fight. And it is going to be a hard fight for new players. But then once you get through it, you find out that that doesn't even lead anywhere. That's an optional boss fight. And you start exploring Central Yharnam, and eventually, you know, you find Father Gascoigne, and get fucked again, because you find out that hunter fights are extremely difficult, because they're extremely agile. So, within this one level, right, Central Yharnam, which is incredibly well put together, by the way. It is fucking amazingly put together. It is a masterclass in good level design. But in this one level, right, you slowly get better and better at the game's main systems. You get used to fighting humanoid enemies, beast enemies, large brutish enemies, very quick and agile enemies. And you get used to managing ambushes and patrols, ranged attacks, and healing management. You level up a bit more and become stronger as well, and you learn how the leveling system works. So and then as you're exploring, it benefits you immensely, because you find these shortcuts that loop back around to your lantern and make it significantly easier to both travel around Central Yharnam and also safely navigate it where you can spend your blood and get back to fights. And so it really is just this perfect gameplay loop that eventually leads to you killing Father Gascoigne and opening up Cathedral Ward. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that Central Yharnam is probably the best level in the Soulsborne franchise. Admittedly, I've only seen videos and gameplay of the other games, right? I've seen a lot about them. I've probably watched, 50 hours of Dark Souls videos, despite never playing the games. But from my experiences watching Dark Souls levels, they are very good, but I don't think any of them are as good as Central Yharnam. And admittedly, playing is a lot different than watching. Like, I had seen a ton of content on Bloodborne in the past, but I was still, whenever I actually played it, there might be levels within Dark Souls that are, oh my god, the gameplay just came back. The black screen went away. Thank fucking god. Man, it was only there for what, 30 minutes of just fucking pitch black? Oh, but it's like laggy as hell right now. And it's back again. Wow. God really does fucking hate me, huh? I looked over, right, because I was just commentating, because the screen is black, so gameplay doesn't matter. All I can do is commentate, you know, make a podcast. And that is what this is now. This is no longer a Minecraft stream. It's a fucking podcast. But, I look over and I see that the gameplay is back, and I'm like, alright, let's get back to actually doing shit. Nope, it's still completely fucking broken. Maybe what I'll do is I'll make a Bloodborne stream of just going through the Chalice dungeons, and I'll make a podcast-style thing where I just talk, and then if the gameplay cuts out and it goes to a black screen, oh well, it'll just no longer be a Bloodborne stream, I'll make it a podcast. Which, I mean, you know, if you're into surprise podcasts, then welcome to the black screencast. If you actually wanted to watch a gameplay video, you're shit out of luck. But, yeah, I think that Central Yharnam... Well, I know Central Yharnam is incredibly well put together. It is, definitely one of the best examples of game design done right I've ever seen. And one of the best examples of level design I've ever seen. But, I have a feeling that it's also just the best level in the entire Soulsborne franchise. Or, I guess, the best stage or area in the entire Soulsborne franchise. And I don't think Bloodborne ever reaches the height that it had with that initial area. Which is not to say that the rest of the game is bad. Cathedral Ward is incredibly well put together. The way that it links up to the Forbidden Woods, and the way it links up to Old Yharnam, and to Hemlock Lane, is really nice. However, I don't think that in terms of in the actual level, so not just the like how it connects to other parts of the world, although I do like the fact that it connects to other parts of the world really well, but in terms of the actual stage itself, Cathedral Ward is well put together, but it is nowhere near as well put together as Central Yharnam. You have these different paths which you can take, and one like loops down into a dead end, and then you unlock that, and you have all these different areas to unlock, and shortcuts and gates and stuff like that, which is good. It is very good. But like, you never... I'm not explaining it very well, and I'm not able to demonstrate it either, because all I have is a black screen. But the point I'm getting at is that, like, the other levels are well put together, but they can't top how well put together Central Yharnam is. Areas that I've grinded in Bloodborne so far, none of them felt as satisfying to grind as Central Yharnam in the early game. Because I, like, slowly just mastered that area. To the point where, like, I could go through that entire loop so easily and kill every enemy. And I memorized their locations. Whereas, you know, the first few times I did that loop, I kept getting fucked in the ass by the sheer amount of enemies that there were. So, yeah, I do think that Central Yharnam is probably the best level in that game. But, you know, there are a lot of fun areas in that game. If I were gonna, like, rank them, and I'm gonna, like, struggle to rank them, because I don't really remember... Well, I remember them, but I don't remember them in a way that I can vocalize. And, you know, there's a lot of stages. But I would say that the top three are, you know, Central Yharnam, Old Yharnam, and then probably Cainhurst Castle, to be honest. I think those three have so far been, like, the most entertaining. With Cathedral Ward in, like, a good fourth place. But Cathedral Ward is also really short. Have a lot of time to shine. Like, the Forbidden Forest, I fucking hated that stage. You know, it was nice to get out of the city for once and explore this this dank, foresty environment. But, like, the enemies kind of look a little bit ridiculous to me, not gonna lie. Like, the snake burst enemies, they don't really look that impressive. They look a bit janky. And, like, the snake balls and giant snake balls also look a bit ridiculous. because they are literally just piles of snakes bundled up. And it's like, I find it a little bit hard to buy into, not gonna lie. And, you know, every enemy in that level is also just annoying as fuck. Like, they're constantly just pains in the asses. So, you know, that doesn't add to my ability to like them. It makes me dislike them even more. So Forbidden Forest has probably been my least favorite stage in the game. But there were some others that were just like a bit meh. Like Bergenwurst is so fucking small that it's hard to even give it consideration as a stage, because it really is. It's one building makes up all of Bergenwurst, and all that's in that building is a single hunter fight, and then you walk outside, jump into the pond, and fight Rom the vacuous spider. A fight which I don't hate, but I'm also not a massive fan of it either. I will say, though, those spiders, when I was, like, first in that fucking boss room for the first time, I had seen it before. I knew it was coming. But when I saw all those spiders crawling around and I was looking at their fucking legs, I, like, got the shudders and I, like, was fucking shaking. Like 4 times throughout that fight, my shoulders did that little spasm thing that you do whenever you cringe, or something's, like, really cold and you do that little fucking spasm. Yeah, I kept getting that throughout the entire fight. Like, every, like, fucking 30 seconds, I would be like, oh, God, I fucking hate these spiders so much. They're so disgusting. And they really are, the way that they fucking crawl around with their nasty bodies and their nasty legs. Like, my fucking legs were like, cramping. From, like, what is that, like,